Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video, we will cover the network security groups and service endpoints. We have covered the VPN gateway, we have covered the express route. I hope you are aware of all the terminologies, the concepts, and the tasks associated with the VPN gateway and the express route. Now, we will get familiar with network security groups and service endpoints. Network security groups filter network traffic to and from Azure resources. Network security groups contain security rules that you can configure to allow or deny the inbound and outbound traffic. We can use network security groups to filter traffic between virtual machines or subnets, both within a virtual network and from the internet. Network security groups are assigned to a network interface or a subnet. When you assign a network security group to a subnet, the rules apply to all network interfaces in that subnet. We can restrict traffic further by associating a network security group to the network interface of a virtual machine. When you apply network security groups to both a subnet and a network interface, each network security group is evaluated independently. Inbound traffic is first evaluated by the network security group applied to the subnet and then by the network security group applied to the network interface. First of all, it would be, though it will be on the same port, let's say you apply the rule on the same port, but if it's applied to a subnet and on the virtual machine level as a network security group, security rule assigned to a subnet would be evaluated first. And in proportion to it, outbound traffic from a virtual machine is first evaluated by the network security applied to the network interface of the machine and then by the network security group applied to the subnet. Components of network security group: the name, it should be unique, the priority, higher, lower the priority, higher the precedence, and the source or the destination. It can be an individual IP, classless interdomain routing, that is CIDR block. It can be a service tag or application security group. Protocol, it can be TCP, UDP, or any. The direction, whether the rule applies to the inbound or outbound. Port range, an individual port or the range of ports. Action, if it's allowing it or denying it. With network security groups, the connections are stateful. Return traffic is automatically allowed for the same TCP UDP session. For example, an inbound rule allowing traffic on port 80 also allows the virtual machine to respond to the request. You don't need a corresponding outbound rule. So if the traffic inbound is allowed, so the outbound will be also allowed. What are the default security rules? The priority is 65,000, 65,001, 65,000. Whenever you will make a virtual machine, you will see one default security rule applied to the network interface. So these are the default security rules. So Azure creates several default rules. These default rules cannot be changed, but can be overridden with our own rules. These default rules allow connectivity within a virtual network and from Azure Load Balancer. They also allow outbound connection to the internet and they deny inbound traffic from the internet. Rule name are allow VNet inbound, allow Azure Load Balancer inbound, deny all inbound, and same goes for the outbound rules as well on the same priority. What are service tags? Service tags simplifies security for virtual machines and Azure virtual networks by allowing you to restrict access by resources or services. Service tags represent a group of IP addresses and help simplify the configuration of the security rules. For resources that we can specify by using a tag, we don't need to know the IP address or port details. Let's see the examples. Virtual network. This tag represents all virtual network addresses anywhere in Azure and in your on-premises network if you're using hybrid connectivity. The load balancer. This tag denotes Azure's infrastructure load balancer. The tag translates to the virtual IP address of the host where Azure health probes originate. Internet. This tag represents anything outside the virtual network address that is publicly reachable, including resources that have public IP addresses. One such resource is the web apps feature of Azure App Service. So if I'm trying to make an inbound rule where I would specify the inbound connection from internet rather than specifying the CIDR block, I can use the service tag which would be named internet, and it's obvious that I'm allowing the public reachability traffic. The Azure Traffic Manager. This tag represents the IP address for Azure Traffic Manager. Storage. This tag represents the IP address space for Azure Storage. SQL. This tag represents the address for Azure SQL Database, Azure Database for MySQL, Azure Database for PostgreSQL, Azure SQL Data Warehouse Services. App Service. This tag represents address prefixes for Azure App Service. Application security groups. Application security groups lets you configure network security for resources used by specific applications. We can group virtual machines logically no matter what their IP address or subnet assignment. We use application security groups within a network security group to apply a security rule to a group of resources. It is easier to deploy and scale. We can just add a virtual machine deployment to one or more application security groups, and the virtual machine automatically picks up the security rules for that workload. An application security group allows you to group network interfaces together. For example, let's say the company has a number of front-end servers in a virtual network. The web servers must be accessible over port 80 and 8080. Database servers must be accessible over port 1433. We assign the network interfaces for the web servers to one application security group and the network interfaces for the database servers to another application security group. We can then create two inbound rules in the network security group. One rule allows HTTP traffic to all the servers in the web server application group, and the another would allow the SQL traffic to all servers in the database security group. That's how you differentiate. Without application security groups, we need to create a separate rule for each virtual machine rather than placing the virtual machine which has the same role, tons of virtual machines which have the same role in one application security group. Now let's create and manage the network security groups. Let me just log on to my sandbox environment provided by Azure and move forward. We'll use the same Azure CLI commands to create it more easily. So this is the architecture that we would be following. This is the app server, the subnet, the applications. This subnet would be databases. IP address would be 10.0.0.4, 10.0.0.1.4. So let's create a virtual network and network security group. Let me open up the Cloud Shell and take it from there. Let me first of all initiate the Cloud Shell. Let me enter the pay-as-you-go East US. Let me create a new resource group. Test NSG lab. Storage account would be test NSG lab storage. File share, create a new test NSG lab file share. Let's see how it goes. I am creating the name test NSG lab and all of the prefixes as a test NSG lab so that it will be easier for me to clean up the resources. I don't have to look around in all resources section to check and delete because I don't want to get charged extra. So as soon as I'm done with the lab, I'll make sure I delete the security group and it will delete the corresponding resources as well. It's initializing the account for Cloud Shell, requesting a Cloud Shell. Take few seconds, not more. The request has been succeeded. It is connecting to the terminal. It authenticated to Azure. It built my Azure drive in which I will run these commands. First of all, I'm going to create a resource group by declaring a variable test NSG lab RG. I think it will AZ group create minus name test RG. Location would be East US. see how it goes. Invalid location. No dash between the east and US. I'm sorry, I created a dash. Okay. So the security group, the resource group has been created. The name of it is NSG Lab RG. Let me make a note of it. Okay, after this, I will make sure that to create a virtual network with the name of ERP-servers. Okay, it would be AZ network vnet create minus NSG lab RG. The name would be ERP servers address prefix, as you know, 10.0.0.0/16, and the subnet name would be applications, and the subnet prefix would be 24. Let's see how it goes. It is done. Now we'll run the command to create the database subnet. We will have two different subnets. So it will be same. Let me just pull up the previous command and make changes in the existing one. So it would be AZ network vnet. So I'm creating a subnet for database. Then I will, so it would be EVS subnet create. Resource would be this. So it would be a vnet dash name ERP servers address prefix. ERP servers address prefix would be 10/24 space. The name would be databases. Now that till now we have created the virtual network named ERP servers, and then we have created two subnets. One is the application subnet, which is 10.0.0.0/24, and one is the database subnet, that is 10.0.10/24. Now we'll run the command to create ERP servers NSG network security group. So we'll do AZ network NSG create NSG lab RG. Then would be name of the network security group would be ERP dash servers dash NSG. All right. Now we'll create a virtual machines running Ubuntu. Okay. First of all, I ran this command wget the package, the cloud init file. Then I'm going to make a Ubuntu VM here by pasting this command, which mentions the resource group, the name of the VM, which would be data server, vnet name ERP server, subnet NSG, the size, admin username, and the password. Enter. It will take few minutes. See. Okay. NSG lab RG at 123456. It'll take few minutes for this to complete. Alright, the virtual machine has been created. The public IP address is this. The private IP address is this. Awesome. Now we will run the command to create the data server machine, because we created one app server machine here. We created the data server here. So I am creating two virtual machines, one the app server, then the data server. The data server is in the databases subnet and the app server is in application subnet. So as soon as it is done, we'll proceed further. And to proceed further, we can take and then we'll check the default connectivity. We'll do the SSH directly from the Cloud Shell. We need the public IP addresses that has been assigned. So public IP address of my application server is this. So if you just copy paste in and try to do the SSH, you can also get the IP address as well. So, but you will not be able to SSH because if you remember, default rules denies the all inbound traffic. So if you would, let's say, do the SSH, so my default user is Azure user at, then the IP of the data is, let's say you paste the IP here. Okay, and then you would say -O, connect timeout 5 seconds. If it is not able to connect in 5 seconds, the connection will be timed out. See how it goes. See, connection timeout. Because the default rule for this is denied. So if you would now go to my Azure portal and look for my resource group here, and if you would have a look at my virtual machine, which is app server or the data server, go to the data server. And if you would click on networking, see, deny all inbound. And this is the virtual network subnet. So this is the virtual network name. And if you would go to this resource group, database server, networking, NSG is ERP servers NSG. You see the inbound rules, deny all inbound. Now, if you will add an inbound rule, and if you would source, you can set for all port range on any destination. This, you can mention the destination address prefix as all, destination port range you can mention as 22, and any priority would be 100. Name you can say set up the as allow SSH rule, and description you can say allow inbound SSH. You click on add, that is not a problem. It is created. You see a bang sign because we have mentioned star. I mean, inbound traffic is allowed from all, that is why it is showing us a warning sign. Now if you would go again and you run this, I have made changes. I made changes to the application server. Oh, no problem. You can change the IP to 40.76.202.10. Banner exchange, that is a different error. It may be because I'm connecting it to it. See, say yes. If you remember that. It is the password. I am connected. See, so that is how the security groups work. Now you can add a security group to the app server so that it can communicate with the database server over HTTP, but database server cannot communicate with app server over HTTP. So on the app server, which is IP address is this, you will create the deny rule from database server to app server on port 80, and then you can test the HTTP connectivity, and that is how you will do it. So I hope I was able to show you the security group work and how what exactly the security group is and how it is done. In the next section, we will see how to deploy an application security group. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.